Recently, Destiny 2 received a massive update to the PvP sandbox, which made abilities take a step back to allow for weapons to take center stage, while abilities were retuned to be supporting roles in our Crucible shenanigans. Along with that change, a lot of prominent ability builds took serious hits, and many of those abilities were direct counters to the last word. So if you remember, a while ago, the last word received some pretty hefty nerfs to bring it down, specifically in the PC sandbox, where controller players were apparently, by all accounts, dumping on people with the exotic hand cannon. Unfortunately, that meant that the last word on console also had to receive those same nerfs, and since then, the last word has maintained a decent usage rate of about 1.1 to 1.3%, depending on the season, but in environments where winning matters, like Trials of Osiris and Survival, the weapon's popularity tanked very hard. Those nerfs, they targeted the range that the last word could effectively 3-tap, and it also affected the damage that the last word does while aiming down the sights. The sandbox team apparently wanted to lean hard into the hip-fire accuracy of the gun and wanted users to use the last word as a close mid-range dueling monster, right? And in that range, things like chaperone and fusion rifles were often the kings, so the last word fell to a much more humble spot on the totem pole subsequently. But personally, I miss the way that the last word was when it came to Destiny 2, you know? I put around 6,000 kills on the gun before it was nerfed, so I rarely hip-fired the gun and worked hard to manage its, that ridiculous recoil while aiming down the sights. And that was much more difficult back then on console because we were all playing at an 85 FOV field of view and 30 frames per second. So with the screen zoomed in that far, the recoil was a genuine beast to control. But I really loved it as a 1v1 dueling gun. In fact, I used to do these like 6 to 8 hour 1v1 streams where I would just open it up to any challengers and we'd just get a line formed, and I would 1v1 challengers just match after match after match after match. And my favorite gun to use in those 1v1s was the last word back then, because you could get those 69 damage 3-taps at a good mid-range combat. So, but anyways, those days have long since gone. And now that the last word has a little more room to breathe, though, after this update, I thought, hey, maybe I should break it out and see what we can do with it. The gun really didn't disappoint. I do still have some major gripes with it, which I'll get to in a minute, but I gotta say it did impress me. I had a lot of fun using this thing. I think its role has changed, though. It's not the same as what it once was. It's a little different. I ended up finding that the last word was difficult to use in conjunction with a sniper. That's kind of like the old iconic way to use the gun was that last word sniper combo, but the last word isn't quite as strong as a primary weapon anymore, especially with you think of a lot of popular ranged weapons that are out there in the sandbox, out on the field right now. You got things like the DMT, you've got the Messenger, No Time to Explain, Lemon Arc, even the exotic special linear fusions out there like the Lorentz. And those are just menaces at locking down lanes and keeping you at arm's length, which is obviously a real detriment to the last word, which really excels in those close to close mid encounters. So I ended up actually getting a lot more comfortable treating the last word as a sidearm instead of a primary. Obviously, a lot of people know I like to do double primary a lot. I like to main sidearms a lot. So I kind of just shifted the way that I would use the last word to fit the role that I would typically let my sidearm fill, right? So I went back to my third axiom, the pulse rifle that you see in the gameplay, the energy pulse rifle. I was using that as my primary. And basically I used the last word to put down people that would rush me, or I would use it to push people whose shields that I ripped with the pulse rifle, right? If I ripped shields with the pulse rifle and they broke for cover, then I would close the gap, maybe jump through the air, since the last word it's so accurate from the hip, even while airborne, and I would clean up targets that way. You'll see plenty of that, especially in the Bannerfall gameplay in this video, because there's the whole outside courtyard is pretty mid to mid long range. So I'd get into a duel with the pulse rifle, I'd land some shots, and while they would break for cover, maybe go behind Mohawk or behind green boxes, that's when I would capitalize on it, and I'd push up with the last word, fly through the air, and just pop, and clean them up. It was a lot of fun. But one of my favorite things to do was lean into that trip mine build that I already have up and running, right? I've done a couple of videos on this on this build that I have with the young Ahamkara Spine. So I'd prime aggressive opponents with the trip mine and sort of preemptively expect their push, and I'd put the trip mine in a place where they would have to go past it in order to push me. I'd prime them with the trip mine and then clean them up at the last word with relative ease. So the one match on Bannerfall in this video, I ended up with 26 final blows with the last word. I mean, it was going in, and I was using those trip mines to really lock down the B zone, right? It's not out in courtyard. It's a little bit more close quarters, lots of walls and surfaces to use with those trip mines. And and then the Radiant Cliffs match, the poor Warlock on the Radiant Cliffs match came into stream and accused me of using an aimbot last word, which I'll take as a compliment, I guess. So my one main criticism, though, if I may, my one main criticism of the gun is that it used to be a consistent and reliable gun, right? But now you're basically just rolling the dice on it. I mean, sometimes it's a genuine laser beam. You know, someone's running at you and you just pop, 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 and you see those 3 yellow 69 numbers pop up and they drop instantly, and you feel really powerful. That's great. It's a good power fantasy, good feeling. But then there's also plenty of times where you put the reticle right on the target and it just absolutely refuses to connect, like this clip I'll show you here on Shores of Time, Distant Shore, whatever you want to call it, blah blah blah. It's an RNG hipfire machine. You know, sometimes it hits, sometimes it gooses, and there's literally nothing that you can do about it. It's not something you can control. When it happens, it just happens, and you can't learn from that fight or change anything in the future. You just sort of cross your fingers and pray to the Traveler that the bullets are going to go where you want them to. And that's really my only major beef with the weapon. I like things that perform the same way every time, and having RNG built into something as crucial as accuracy can lead to some pretty infuriating engagements. But all in all, I have to say that the last word did really impress me. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. I think I'm going to try to take it into trials and see how it performs there with this same build. I did just get a really nice solo queue flawless passage today to the lighthouse with double primaries, so I figured I'd upload that whole card, just cut out the downtime in between matches and rounds for you, so hopefully you enjoy that. But that was a really fun card, using double primary on Bannerfall, and coming out with straight 7-0 card, no mercy needed. It was great, a lot of fun. So thanks so much for watching the video today. Please feel free to leave a like only if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more Destiny content, and engage with the video in some capacity to help boost its favor in the all-powerful YouTube algorithm. So I hope you have an excellent holiday season full of merriment and mirth. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and hope to catch you in the Crucible.